Your Highness, dear Ministers, dear Secretary of States, Mr. President, Excellencies, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Biomarine and welcome to the wonderful city of Cascais. Mr. Mayor, it has been a privilege to work with you and your team over these last 12 months. Allow me to congratulate you for all your unwavering support and dedication towards the realization of this event. This is going to be a very special edition as it fully commits and supports the new Portuguese strategic vision on ocean. I would like to thank Manuel Pinto de Abreu for his commitment and for his addiction to biomarine. Portugal is about to enter a new era with great future and endless opportunities for economic development. Portugal was built by the sea, and Portugal will revive itself through the sea. I would also like to extend my deepest thanks to His Serene Highness, our honorary chair of the Biomarine International Cluster Association, for his commitment toward the sustainability of oceans. We share his convictions that in order for this ambitious challenge to be won, we need to engage international organizations, but also finance, industry, applied research, and consumers. We would like also to send our warmest regard to the entire biomarine community that is following us live today. Now I would like to introduce my dear friend who has been supporting the biomarine from the start. He was at that time, along with John Richardson, elaborating the basis of the European Blue Policy, and believe me, it was not an easy task. For now, I would like to welcome Tiago Pita Icunha. Please, Tiago.
Thank you, Pierre. Your Serene Highness, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, since the first Biomarine at Marseille that I picture the Biomarine in Portugal. So welcome to Portugal. I hope you'll have time to enjoy our wine, our food, our premium climate, weather, and we hope Biomarine 2014 will be an adventurous Biomarine. An adventurous Biomarine because your work, Blue Biotechnology, it's about a revolution in the way we eat, a revolution in the way we deal with our health, with our medicine, with our nutrients, with our energy, with our materials, biomaterials. Portugal wants to play a role in this blue revolution, and we have arguments for it. You are aware of our geography, our biophysics. Portugal is a powerhouse for marine biodiversity, second to none in Europe. You have witnessed the political will through the President's brief statement yesterday, and you will listen to the State Secretary for Maritime Affairs and the Minister for Agriculture and Sea during Biomarine 2014. And of course you will have the chance to get in touch, to do business with Portuguese companies and with R&D units that are present throughout Biomarine. I wish you all the best with your proceedings. Thank you very much.
And I would like you to welcome the Mayor of Cascais, the President of the entire area, and please welcome my dear friend Carlos.
Good morning, Sua Alteza, Príncipe Alberto, agradecer-lhe a forte amizade que tem por Portugal e por Cascais, cumprimentar os seus secretários de Estado, de Portugal e da Noruega, senhores embaixadores, caros amigos aqui presentes e todos aqueles que nos seguem via internet. Permitam-me que, em nome de todos os cascalenses, vos dirija uma calorosa saudação de boas-vindas a Cascais. Como povo atlântico que somos, estamos orgulhosos e felizes por vos receber para a mais importante Conferência Mundial sobre o Mar. O chairman do Biomarine, o nosso amigo Pierre Herwes, sabe bem o quanto ambicionarmos ser a casa da 5ª Conferência Biomarine. Corremos o mundo e cruzamos o Atlântico atrás desta oportunidade. Como prova do nosso comprometimento, fomos até Halifax, do Canadá, cumprimento o Sr. Embaixador aqui presente, para ter a certeza que trazíamos uma bandeira Biomarine na bagagem no regresso a Cascais. Amanhã, ao final do dia, vamos passar a bandeira aos nossos amigos de Wilmington, a Carolina do Norte, a quem, e cumprimento o Sr. Embaixador dos Estados Unidos também aqui presente, a quem desejamos as maiores felicidades na organização do próximo Biomarine. Mas isso é só para o ano. Até lá, é a nossa vez, a vez de Cascais, de elevar as expectativas dos nossos ilustres convidados e organizar a melhor conferência de sempre. E saiba, caro chairman do Biomarine, que trabalharemos sempre para voltar a merecer o privilégio da vossa visita. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, qualquer que seja a perspectiva, a 5ª Conferência do Biomarine em Cascais já é para nós um sucesso. É aqui e agora que se reúne uma extraordinária percentagem da economia azul do planeta e quero aproveitar para saudar muito calorosamente todos os empresários e empreendedores que convergem em Cascais vindos dos 4 cantos do mundo. É aqui e agora que se encontram decisores políticos de primeira linha, como foi o caso de Sua Excelência o Presidente da República Portuguesa ou de Sua Alteza Real o Príncipe Alberto do Mónaco, que, fiel à tradição familiar, mantém com Cascais uma profunda relação de amizade. É aqui e agora que o mar é passado, presente e futuro. Há 3 boas razões para que o Biomarine e Cascais sejam uma parceria duradoura e de grande sucesso. A primeira razão tem a ver com quem somos. Essa é uma história antiga, tem precisamente 650 anos, Cascais é uma vila secular e toda a sua vida foi definida na relação com o mar. Foi este mar que nos alimentou, foi deste mar que os marinheiros portugueses deram novos mundos ao mundo, foi neste mar que resolvemos disputas antigas com Francis Drake ou Napoleão Bonaparte, foi este mar que trouxe até todos os povos da Europa que procuravam paz e liberdade num continente em guerra. É neste mar que nos encontramos com o futuro, que está a ser preparado num dos mais inovadores centros marítimos da Europa. É em Cascais que trabalhamos à escala local para ter impacto global, comprometidos com o destino de criar uma nova economia azul. Uma economia azul assente na nossa experiência e relação afetiva e identitária dos portugueses com o mar, uma economia que seja reconhecível no mundo pela sua inovação, pelo seu compromisso com a sustentabilidade e pela sua capacidade de criar uma prosperidade abrangente e democrática para os cidadãos. A segunda razão liga-se ao lugar onde estamos, Portugal. Portugal é muitas vezes percepcionado como um país pequeno, periférico e pobre. Mas atenção, porque os velhos mapas enganam. Portugal, reconhecida a extensão da plataforma continental nas Nações Unidas, entrará diretamente para a lista de maiores países do mundo em área. Concordaremos que não há nada nem de pequeno, nem de pobre em tudo isto, muito menos periférico. Depois de anos a olhar para leste, a Europa voltou a redescobrir o seu Atlântico. 2 iniciativas prometem mudar radicalmente o papel de Portugal na Europa. A primeira prende-se com a criação do mercado único europeu de energia. A Europa, que se construiu em torno do carvão e do aço, pode agora refundar-se através do mar, do vento e do sol. Portugal coloca-se no coração energético da nova Europa. A segunda iniciativa é a parceria transatlântica para o comércio, que criará a maior zona de comércio livre do mundo entre os Estados Unidos e a Europa. Portugal é a portagem do lado de cá desta extraordinária autoestrada comercial atlântica. Vossas Excelências são empresários e empreendedores de sucesso. Se há coisa que fazem bem, é identificar uma oportunidade quando ela surge. Melhor do que ninguém, perante estes factos, compreenderão que pequeno, periférico e pobre, este país, o meu país, não é certamente. Isto leva-me à terceira e última razão. Aquilo que eu acredito que juntos seremos capazes de fazer a partir de Cascais. Eu acredito que podemos colocar os oceanos no topo da agenda internacional. Vamos na segunda década do século XXI, fazem-se viagens turísticas ao espaço, põem-se homens e mulheres a viver numa estação espacial, as potências despejam milhares de milhões de euros e de dólares em programas espaciais e queremos virar o espaço do avesso, mas continuamos sem conhecer os nossos oceanos. Sabemos os nomes de quase todos os 12 astronautas que já pisaram a Lua, mas desconhecemos os nomes dos 2 heróis que tocaram no fundo da Fossa Mariana em 1960, feito nunca mais repetido na história da humanidade. Os miúdos na escola querem ser astronautas, mas nunca pensam em ser aquanautas. Procuramos a vida no espaço e ignoramos a vida nos oceanos. Os oceanos são o grande vizinho desconhecido que a humanidade nunca procurou conhecer. Não podemos viver mais tempo na confortável escuridão da ignorância. Conhecer os oceanos não é só uma condição essencial para o progresso económico, científico ou social. Conhecer os oceanos é uma prerrogativa para a paz internacional. É esse o vosso, o nosso trabalho diário. Para terminar, eu acredito que podemos recuperar o espírito de uma humanidade comum a partir dos oceanos. Há uns anos, visitei a cidade velha na ilha de Santiago, em Cabo Verde, e numa conversa de circunstância, comentei com um ancião local o quanto me satisfazia voltar a pisar chão africano. Fez-se um silêncio gélido, só quebrado pelas palavras sábias da experiência. Este não é chão africano, é chão atlântico, corrigiu-me o velho ancião. Guardei essas palavras comigo. Podemos ser portugueses ou franceses, canadianos, cabo-verdianos, japoneses, brasileiros, mas dentro desta aparente inconciliável diversidade, há uma unidade extraordinária que nos é dada pela partilha da mesma predisposição marítima, pela vivência do mesmo espírito oceânico. É o mar que une aquilo que tudo o resto separa. É no mar que nos podemos novamente encontrar como comunidade global. É no mar que reencontraremos a nossa humanidade comum. Que o façamos a partir de Cascais é um desafio que vos deixo e um orgulho que assumimos. Sejam sempre, mas mesmo sempre, muito bem-vindos a Cascais, a nossa casa, a vossa casa. Muito obrigado.
We have found our panelist.
Thank you, Pierre. Your Serene Highness, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, we live exciting times. We have, 200 years after the Industrial Revolution, we have the privilege to live a new economic revolution. This time, this revolution is set on the background of amazing technology developments, not only on communications and information technologies, but also in every field of science. This economic revolution is also set on the background of, for the first time, a globalized world, a small world. This economic revolution, as any other revolution, is basically set, or the result of two circumstances occurring simultaneously, which is a necessity and an opportunity. Both of them, when they originate simultaneously, give or incentivates these revolutions. And in this case in particular, we have the necessity in this case is basically a result of the scarceness of the traditional capital that we manufacture. This shortness of capital, of this traditional capital, has been a tremendous obstacle to the growth of the economies. So basically, right now at these times, economies, especially in the developed world, have serious difficulties to keep up the growth that we have been witnessing in the past decades. And basically, this difficulty has triggered the states, the nations, to look for new capital. And this new capital is obviously, or must be, at least a great part of this, has to be the natural resources of each country. So countries are basically finding the necessity to explore these natural resources, their natural capital. But also, our times show us that a traditional exploration of this capital is not sustainable. You know, if you don't have a sustainable exploitation of these resources, you know, very quickly countries will lose these resources. We know now that these resources are limited, and they have to be, you know, exploited in a very smart way. So this brings us to the opportunity. And the opportunity is that advances in technology, you know, what we have been witnessing, particularly in the past 2 decades, have allowed us, for the first time, to explore these newfound resources in a way that is sustainable and economically viable. And when I say this, I mean I look at the 2 sides of the economy. And basically, the 2 sides of the economy is the supply and the demand. And the advances in technology have allowed us now, you know, to create a supply and to create demand. Supply is, for instance, the access to natural resources that were not available a few years ago. So now we can reach these resources, and we can extract them or use them or even create them based on these technologies. And on the demand side, we have technologies allowed us to give use to these newfound resources. So basically now you can use these resources for food supplies, for energy supplies, for pharmaceutical uses, even cosmetic uses. So let's say this innovation is opening up and is triggering this economic revolution. And this is where biotechnology takes a central role, particularly biotechnology, because advances in biotechnology are opening these doors, you know, are opening the doors to find new resources, and are opening the doors to use these new resources in an economically sensible way. And when I say that particularly blue technology is the trigger, is because if we think that the sea contains actually 80% of all life forms, we see how important blue biotechnology is in this stage. So now we can extract bioactive components of microorganisms in the deep sea and use it for food or for medicines. Or we can use seaweed or shells and with them create new biomaterials. So, you know, the opportunities that are opening up and are just immense. And this brings us to this panel. And basically in this panel we will have a discussion on how 4 countries, Norway, Portugal, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France, have or are managing to transform this necessity of resources, this opportunity of using them, into a blue economy. So before going into the discussions, I would ask the members of the panel, just for a brief introduction, if you can take it in 1 minute, that would be perfect. I'll start with you, State Secretary, please. Of yourself, yes.
Of myself. On? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dilek Ayhan. I'm the State Secretary or the Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries in Norway. I am not a typical politician in the sense that I come directly from the private sector. I came into this position by leaving my company last year in October. I think it's very important also in the political scene to have people with real experience from the private sector. It's an honor for me to be here. It's my first visit to Portugal, and I of course want to congratulate all the organizers of this event. It's a pleasure to be among so many dedicated business people, scientists, and of course people from the public administration that brings the blue agenda forward. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Fausto, Brito, Abreu. I'm the Regional Secretary for the Sea, Science and Technology of the Azores Regional Government. I'm a biologist by training, but also I'm not a typical politician. I've come from the private sector and have spent 6 years in the investment banking industry. And since then, I have also been a part-time diplomat in Brussels, representing Portugal on environment working parties in the EU Council. And I have taken office in the Azores Regional Government just over 3 months ago, when we decided to create this government department devoted to the sea, science and technology. The regional government of the Azores has competence over the maritime areas that are next to it, and shares that competence with the central government of Portugal on some political sectorial areas. So this is a very important domain for us. Thank you.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here in Portugal. I owe special thanks to the government of Portugal and the Biomarine organizer, and also Portugal Embassy Riyadh and Saudi Embassy for facilitating the visit for me, because this is my first time to be in Portugal. My name is Shehri. I'm a Deputy Minister for Fisheries in the Ministry of Agriculture in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, we work hard right now to build a new industry for aquaculture, and we concern this matter as an important particular things for developing the food security. We are working with the universities inside the country and outside the country, and also with the specialist institute to build a new and latest industry in aquaculture.
Morning. Well, my name is Alain Rousset. I am the president of a French region, Aquitaine, and the president of the association of all the French region. I was the former president of the Commission of Arc Atlantique, a commission who, I'm sorry, my English is regroupe, comment dit-on regrouper en anglais? Gather. All the region, all the European region nearby the ocean. And we have a project with university and firms to a demonstrator of energy research in the ocean nearby our coast. There is a reform in France. We reinforce our relationship with the ocean, that the region, the French region, will be more strong, important, and for Aquitaine, the coast will be larger than today.
Thank you. Ms. State Secretary, we know the success of the blue economy in Norway. We've seen the size of the Norwegian delegation to this convention. I'd like to ask you, how did you manage as a country to build such a blue economy?
First of all, Norway is indeed a blue economy. It's And we have always been somehow. It's part of our culture, I would say. It's part of the Norwegian way of living life. If you come to Norway, most of us actually live close to the ocean or nearby. We have throughout centuries been fishing, and also all the shipping has been very close to our hearts. The last decade, Norway has succeeded in both modernizing existing industry, but also putting enough emphasis on creating new blue industries and developing these. We have, and the good examples are the oil and gas industry, the aquaculture industry. We have also, I would say there's three things that we have done which is very, very important. We have a very stable and regulation. It's predictable. It allows us to have a sustainable development, but at the same time make sure that the upcoming generations also can make use of the richness that we find in the oceans. We have invested a lot in innovation and research and R&D. The marine research has had a priority in Norway, and of course has helped us to build new knowledge over and over again to at least make us sure that we are ahead of the ongoing developments globally. The last thing I will say, which has been very, very important for us, is the international cooperation, the public-private partnership. We have, maybe a good example is the salmon. It wouldn't have been possible to make salmon such a common dish as a sushi globally if we hadn't worked together with other nations, other knowledge communities around the world. So I think it's the two things, and if I can sum up, it's the culture of taking risk. Most Norwegians, they are like the old Vikings. They go out. They're part of the. They love being a part of the world, and they believe. We believe hardly in the importance of knowledge. So we invest a lot in bringing up new knowledge. In our current government, we heavily invest in R&D. It's one of our 4, I think, main priority areas of investment. So this year's budget, which is actually being discussed now back in Norway, will hopefully be the best R&D budget ever. So so I can somehow say that it's communities like this, gatherings like this, cooperations that comes out of meeting places like this that brings the blue economy forward. Thank you.
Mr. Regional Secretary, we heard from Mr. Piticunha, we heard from the Mayor of Cascais that Portugal has an enormous maritime territory, and you sit right in the middle of it. What do you plan to do with this opportunity?
Well, yes, we do have a huge part of the European waters, the EU European waters, and the Azores region has more than half of the Portuguese maritime waters as well, and I totally concur with what has been said here. We have a huge potential and a huge responsibility as a country to lead this blue economy revolution. Our historical credentials are known to all. But I think we also have a need that is very clear now. There's an element of our history that you may not know. Our economy has been in the doldrums in some way in the current years, but in our last 200 years of history, Portugal has been close to bankruptcy more than 10 times. So in some ways we are specialists in being in complicated financial crises. And I think it's fair to say as well that we have proven that we're also specialists at finding creative ways to getting out of financial crisis. And today, as you may have heard, there's a considerable political consensus and then the general consensus in Portugal that the development of the blue economy holds the key to our next economic cycle and to our economic recovery. And this is not only our political elite, but also our civil society at large, and I think our business community is keenly aware of this. We have, well, many characteristics that bring us, that make us special in having a role. Well, not only the quantity of maritime water we have, but also the quality of those waters. We have an extremely diverse set of ecosystems in the Portuguese waters, from coastal systems to deep sea to extreme ecosystems where you have a geothermal activity, so hydrothermal vent fields, seamounts, which are extremely interesting and are still very much unexplored. We have also extreme wealth in other sectors, in minerals. As a country, we are a country of fish eaters. We have an obscenely high per capita consumption of fish, in ranking top within Europe and the world. So we still import a lot of the fish we eat. We have a very interesting market for aquaculture products and for its development. We are champions of renewable energies in Portugal. 60% or so of the energy, the electricity in Portugal, it comes from renewable sources. We have been pioneers in some forms of ocean renewable energies. Today it's still a small percentage, I think a huge potential for growth on the renewable energies sector. Also we have been investing a lot on science and research and getting to know our seas more. This was the effort we have done over the past years during the preparation of our submission to the UN for the extension of the continental shelf was a decisive period, but we still hold many world-class research centers on the marine sciences, and these are very important to give us the ground knowledge to develop this blue economy. And also we have a tradition of having national strategies for the sea. We have reviewed recently the national strategy. We keep it up to date. We have been champions also of the integration of maritime policies, both nationally at EU level, maritime special planning, so all types of regulatory tools that we have implemented in Portugal and defended them at EU level as well, which I think make us a prime candidate to hold a responsibility on this adventure. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Minister, we know that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has decided to be a key player in the blue economy, the world blue economy. Can you explain us the reasons why and what's the basis of that decision?
Well, please allow me for 1 minute to just say something about my country. Saudi Arabia is part of the Middle East countries. It's occupying 70% of the Arabian Peninsula. From the west of Saudi Arabia, there is a Red Sea with a coastline around 2,000 kilometers, and the east coast of Saudi Arabia is around 800 kilometers. Saudi Arabia is concerned about food security, so the government devoted and a big budget, $billions of dollars, to develop the agricultural sector, especially aquaculture. At the same time, Saudi Arabia has appropriate climate for aquacultural activities, hatching and incubation and farming. For example, the water quality and transparency of the Red Sea is one of the best in the development country. The environment is stable the environment condition is stable during the whole year, sunny. The country is mostly sunny during the whole year. Policy related to biosecurity implemented is too high. Component of aquaculture, one of the main components what we concern about in Saudi Arabia. So we are trying to keep the environment clean of disease. We are implementing the policy to minimize the risk of disease introduction to ensure the sustainable aquaculture. Availability of many marine endemic aquatic species viable for economic breeding. Availability of all kinds of infrastructure in Saudi Arabia. We have a highway, we have good electricity plants, we have water available everywhere. And also we have a strong private sector in Saudi Arabia government enhanced the private sector to invest in aquaculture, and they have the desire to do so. We have also obligation to develop rural and fishing communities in the coastal areas, building also a sound base for aquaculture industry in the kingdom, providing job opportunities for people. We are planning and having a strategy where we can, during the next 16 years, have a job employment for maybe 400,000 people. Thank you.
Mr. President, you were the president of the Atlantic Arc, and with that insight, how do you see the role of your region? What's the role that region will play on the blue economy?
Thank you. As I told you, first of all, you must have heard that the French regions will have the number reduced, their size growth, and their competencies also growth, especially in economic development. And when we have a region nearby ocean, naturally the development will be in direction of ocean. So is the case of Aquitaine. Is coast will grow an important manner. We have soon many activity, tourism, industry of notice, oysters farming, and some laboratories to research in biomarine energy or biomarine medical system. And the policy now for this region is to join their efforts to reinforce research, development, and protection of the ocean. The protection of the ocean is of sustainable development is an exigence, as we said in France, a political exigence, very hard. But we have to develop our relationship with the ocean. We have to reinforce halieutic resource, to invent some way to develop halieutic resource. It's very difficult now. And the Association of Arc Atlantic is a structure who work with European Commission to develop relationship between Earth, between these regions, and the resource of the ocean. The main results we obtained was the adoption of a maritime strategy for Atlantic with 4 overarching priorities: promote entrepreneurship and innovation, protect, secure, and enhance the marine and coastal environment, to improve accessibility and connectivity, and to create a socially inclusive and sustainable model of regional development. These policies, these relationship also can be used to develop some parts of the planet, especially some isles as Madagascar, La Réunion. I think it's a marine development, ocean development is a chance for these parts of the planet to develop their population, to enhance the development.
Thank you. Mr. Regional Secretary, now from a more business perspective, what leverage do you think can be used to make Portugal and the Azores in particular the next blue investment place in the world?
Well, from the more practical point of view, I think having regulatory clarity and then the business-friendly regulatory framework is very important. On the one hand, at the regional level, we believe as well that public spending is important, and I know this is a bit controversial, but there's a basis of investment from the government side that should work as stimulus for the private sector. We don't believe that just regulation and waiting for the private sector to do everything will work. In the Azores region, we have identified marine biotechnology as one of the first areas that we think the moment is ripe to stimulate. So next year the regional government will have a very aggressive package of stimulus. We will be financing scientific grants for scientists who will be based in companies. We'll pay the salaries of those scientists to do research with biotech companies that want to base themselves in the Azores. We have top-class office space at very competitive rents, symbolic rents, and access to laboratories in our university to receive startup companies and established companies who want to base and create jobs in the region. We have a line of financing for projects that link the knowledge we have developed at the University of the Azores, which is one of the top 20 publishers on deep sea research, for example. Projects that can derive value from the scientific knowledge we already have created. So there's a line in our budget for 2015 that is also being discussed now in our regional parliament. Being an ultra-peripheral region within the EU, we have some tax benefits, so individuals that are based there and companies that choose to set up a base benefit from a special fiscal benefits package. We're very open to cooperation. Now, we have the perception, I think, both at national and regional level, that the scale of resources we have to explore is so huge that we will need cooperation with other countries. In the Azores, we have set up some very interesting projects. We have some cooperation with India and Brazil for the scientific studies on hydrothermal vent fields. We're very close to the US. We have a privileged relationship with the US, and also links with other maritime nations. We're very keen to develop links with Norway, Canada, Monaco. I think we have an openness to share knowledge, resources, and try to drive synergies, because although we are guardians in Portugal and the Azores of a huge wealth, I think there's a huge potential that the world should benefit from, both in products and discoveries.
Thank you. Mr. President, we talked a lot about knowledge as an opportunity. How, in your opinion, can we transform this knowledge into jobs in the blue economy?
Well, first of all, you have to build knowledge. By experience in my region, we have during 10 years reinforcement of knowledge, research, laboratory, university, and the result is very positive. Secondly, you have to create relationship, and it's a new thing in France, which is the last centralized country in democratic world. Create a relationship between research firms and political or regional governments. To transfer technology first, about projects by demonstrator, new plane, new method to geological work, new form in the sea. And we have to join public finance and private finance to finance that. I think we have to build a precursor. I don't know if this word exists in English. And we have to join private society and public research in the same place to work and to develop this blue economy. I think that blue economy is a chance for our growth, for our population, but we have many precautions, many attention to the ocean. And this conference is for me very interesting to have an exchange with all responsible, political and private, to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Minister, we know that aquaculture is the key driver of your blue economy. How do you see its progression in the future?
In Saudi Arabia, up to 60, most of the people, they don't have fish meal. They don't eat seafood, especially the people inside the country, except the people who's in a small village beside the sea in the east and west of Saudi Arabia. Time by time, they just realized that they should eat fish because education is increasing in the country. Government right now, they so concerned about developing the aquaculture. You know, Red Sea and Arabian Gulf is a semi-closed sea, so they were limited in fish. We are working right now to stop the fishing in both seas to just produce around 70,000 tons per year. And we are planning, we have a new strategy which is built by the Ministry of Agriculture and Agricultural Development Fund in Saudi Arabia. We are planning to send more than 60 billion riyals, which are around $20 billion, to develop the aquaculture sector by 16 years. In 16 years, we are planning to improve and increase the production from, right now, we only around 100,000 per year. We are planning to reach at least 1 million tons per year, which is a dream, but it's achievable in the same time. Since we have a good private sector, and the government supporting the sector, government give a loan, sometimes reach 80% of the cost of the project, and there is no interest. some of them non-refundable. So that's, just encourage private sector to participate in development of the sector. At the same time, we are working to learn from different countries. Well, I had a team and we visited Norway, Holland, United States, Chile, Australia, different countries who has the experience and who already have a good industry in agriculture. And we are learning from them, and we are importing the new technology. We are also, in the same times, we are working with experts around the world. We have an institution in Saudi Arabia who is developing research in agriculture, and also university. So we really we are working hard, just to build a good and sustainable industry in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much. And the last question of this panel is for you, Mr. State Secretary. You told us earlier that you were an entrepreneur and now you are a State Secretary. With the benefit of that insight, can you explain us how would you convince a young entrepreneur to invest in the blue economy?
Okay. First of all, a friend of mine once said, it's so weird that they actually named the Earth for Earth. Just look at it, most of it is actually ocean. I grew up in a family with many entrepreneurs. My father is an entrepreneur, my uncle is an entrepreneur, my brother is an entrepreneur. Growing up in my own family, I realized that most of those who become entrepreneurs are very good in seeing opportunities where other people see challenges and problems. The oceans will just be more and more important for food, for energy, for the climate, for health, for transport. There lies a wide range of opportunities just in front of us. If you go, and my father also taught me a very important lesson. He said to me, you have to, don't let other people define how far you can get. Don't let other people limit your visions, your aims. Make sure that you put enough heart, enough efforts and hard work into it, and find your own limits of how much you can achieve. It's a line, he said. You know when you get there. At the same time, I feel the same goes to how we interact with our oceans. We should try to make the most of the richness that is there, but at the same time we should find that very balanced line of the oceans, of how much the oceans can handle the interaction that we have with it. If you come to Norway, go and visit some of the most leading marine clusters that we have there. You will feel the entrepreneurial culture, both the culture but also the spirit wherever you go. These are people that find pride, I would say, in being leading in their fields. If there is anyone that would want us as the government to invest more in this sector, of course, it's the people that find and see the great opportunities that lies within this sector. And they are the true entrepreneurs of Norway. Of course, they also represent a part of our culture and a part of, I think, the solutions for the future in addressing the huge needs that the world will have in the production of, for example, enough food. Why should then the young people or the young entrepreneurs see these opportunities? In Norway, it is very obvious because it's the marine sector is very visible. If you, as an entrepreneur, you still don't see the opportunities, you will not be successful. But it also it has another side. It is, of course, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that will find success in this sector. Also, I guess because many of you will address the challenges that are there, so they will go directly into it and try to provide solutions. But at the other most important thing is that it also provides a lot of jobs. There's a huge unemployment rate among young people in the world. I think we as leaders have to make sure that we provide enough jobs as well for our young people. I think it's one of the most important things that we can do. Every weekend I spend time with my brother's 4-year-old girl and my sick father. And I tell myself the most important thing that I can do as a politician is to make sure that we provide the same opportunities that we have today for them and the next generations to come. And if we're going to manage this, I think all of us have to come together, because change or the real big things we never create alone. And this is maybe my main message. I think if we should really manage to both address and to find the right solutions to these challenges, we have to do it together. So I highly, you can move mountains with that strength and power that comes when entrepreneurs from different countries, scientists from different countries, and also even governments from different countries come together to boost up the opportunities that are in this sector. So I'm not really that worried, because I trust in all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I know we are a bit short of time. I'd just like to ask each member of the panel to make some final remarks. I'll ask you to keep it very short, up to 2 minutes if possible. Maybe we start with Mr. President and then come back all the way. Thank you. Just some final remarks if you wish to. No, okay, yes. Okay. What about you, Mr. Deputy Minister? Do you want to make some final remarks?
Well, I just want to say something important. I think cooperation between countries is important. We are sharing, the seawater. So any, as example, contamination or something like that will affect not only the country, it's going to affect all the around countries, and we are get benefits of the same source. We are sharing the same resources, so we should concern about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Regional Secretary.
Thank you. I just would like to highlight something the mayor of Cascais has mentioned, and has to do with knowledge of our deep seas. It's true that we know better the outer space than we know our own oceans. And fortunately, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, we were much more in the dark than we are today. We all had instinctively the feeling that a huge wealth and a huge potential existed there. 20 years on now, we have already scratched the surface and have some closer knowledge, and I think the promise is much higher than we ever imagined, and the moment is really ripe now for all this value to be truly extracted. And this is very exciting. It's very exciting to be in the North Atlantic now, and this is why governments come to business conferences. It's to hear from the companies and from the entrepreneurs what you need from the governments to make sure that we share all this wealth. Thank you.
Yes, I love people, so it's always great to meet new people. Yesterday, and of course, as soon as I arrived, I tried to see how people interact with each other. Somehow people tend to sit always next to the person they already know from before. As someone coming from the private sector, I know that most of the business is built on trust between real people. So if you're going to make something out of this conference, try to make sure that you spend the time that we have here with people you don't know. And it's amazing what comes out of sometimes a new friendship. Small ideas can become big, and we actually need you to do so. It's a great honor, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much. I would just like to thank the members of the panel for their excellent insights and for sharing their vision and their experience in transforming what is a political vision into a real blue economy. And I think now it's time to leave the floor for the keynote speakers. Thank you very much.
Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to welcome Manuel Pinto de Abreu. For the past 3 years, Manuel has been constantly working on bringing the blue vision on the top of the national agenda. He is one of my 3 strong pillars this year in Portugal. Please welcome the Secretary of State, Manuel Pinto de Abreu.
Good morning, Your Serene Highness Prince Albert II, Mr. Carlos Carreiras, Mayor of Cascais, Your Excellency Mr. Jaber Al-Shehri, Deputy Minister for Fisheries of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Your Excellency Mrs. Dilek Ayhan, Norwegian State Secretary of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, Mr. Fausto Brito Abreu, Regional Secretary for the Sea Science and Technology, Mr. Ayhan Rocha, President of the Aquitaine region, members of the Diplomatic Corps and other authorities present, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and pleasure to deliver this address to such a distinguished audience in this important, unique event. I would like to start by expressing my sincere thanks to Pierre and Veronique for all their efforts and hard work and for all their enthusiasm in making Biomarine 2014 in Cascais possible. Thank you very much. As I'm sure you are all aware, it's more than you. As I'm sure you are all aware, Biomarine 2014 is one of the key business events of the year in Portugal, and dare I say, also at a global level, bringing together an impressive group of business leaders and participants from all parts of the world that jointly represent a growing and extremely competitive and valuable industry. Biomarine is the global showcase for the latest knowledge and skills covering all sectors within the marine bioresource industry, including marine ingredients, marine biotechnology, aquaculture and aquafeed, nutraceuticals and clean technology. It provides an international platform for a constructive dialogue between decision makers, international organizations, regional and national associations and the private sector. It is therefore an occasion to learn from best practice of key national and international stakeholders, and to put forward projects and partnerships, build international research programs, and create a joint vision for the marine bioresources industry. Most important, Biomarine 2014 is the gateway for outstanding business opportunities in Portugal and to create qualified jobs, bringing together more than 300 business leaders that represent the mainstream of global marine bioresources industry. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Portugal is determined to develop its sea economy. It is currently a principal European country in biomarine capabilities and aims at becoming Europe's foremost leader in biomarine sector, particularly by creating and attracting investment opportunities and supporting research and development. In order to achieve this, Portugal has taken important steps to improve the legal and regulatory framework, namely with the approval of the National Ocean Strategy for the Ocean 2013-2020 and the preparation of groundbreaking legislation on marine spatial planning that simplifies and accelerates procedures. Financing is also available through public funds, but also private funds that have long understood the potential for investing in Portugal's sea economy. Portugal's determination to develop its sea economy is supported in sustainable uses of the oceans and its resources. This is a common value also shared by the business community. Actually, In certain instances, we are seeing that private initiatives are leading the development of best practices and setting standards for policymakers. In these respects, Portugal's National Ocean Strategy and relevant legislation has achieved a delicate balance between economic development and sustainable use of the oceans and these resources. Portugal is also determined to catalyze partnerships and to build on best practice and know-how. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Portugal is unwavering in creating value from the ocean for the benefit of present and future generations. To achieve this goal, we must first and foremost develop our knowledge of the ocean. Over the years, Portugal has invested significantly in increasing and improving national capabilities and know-how. This is the case, for example, of the works undertaken in preparation of our submission for the extension of the continental shelf, which will become one of the world's largest maritime areas under national jurisdiction. Through partnerships with academics, scientists and research centers, and other relevant stakeholders, we have uncovered fascinating marine life and resources and we are leading the way in the adoption of groundbreaking measures for the protection and preservation of marine environment, such as concerning the creation of marine protected areas and use and conservation of fisheries. We strongly believe that only through these important partnerships and the increase of our knowledge, innovation and efficiency can we also benefit the sustainable development of our sea economy in its three dimensions: the economic, the social and the environmental. Only through an economic, social and environmental sustainable development can we develop a sea economy that is in fact sustainable, thus creating a valuable legacy for our future generations. Portugal is a solid and reliable partner for the marine bioresources industry. In Portugal, you will find environmentally and socially sustainable policies, high qualified human resources, state-of-the-art research and development centers, support from policymakers and administration, and investor-friendly regulatory regimes. Another relevant aspect that Portugal has to offer is unique weather conditions, as we have witnessed these days, that are indispensable for certain sectors of marine bioresource industry, such as microalgae. This is one aspect that not even the most stable politician can claim to be doing, at least in theory. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate my sincere thanks to all those that organized and took part and supported this event, and express my sincere wishes that you may have meaningful discussions and brainstorming sessions, but most important that you will appreciate and recognize unique opportunities in Portugal, that Portugal has to offer to the marine bioresources industry, and please take some time to visit Cascais, because I'm sure that you will dare to come to the ocean with the Portuguese. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
We have plenty of time. You know, we start on time, we finish on time, and this time we still have time. I'm relaxed. Ladies and gentlemen, it is somehow ironic to have a prince as a leader of the most important revolution. The blue revolution may be sailing towards new horizon, but he still needs a captain with strong leadership skills to navigate through all the storms. Monaco's commitment to the ocean goes way back in the family tree, but His Highness is now at the helm and guiding the blue revolution towards new opportunities. He knows the kind of storm that awaits us, notably climate change, environmental conservation, and politics. Yet, like all great sailing adventure, the captain needs to gain the trust of his crew. His Highness is fully aware that in order for the blue revolution to materialize, we need to convince people such as yourself, and the final consumer, that investing in the blue economy will transform our lives. The blue revolution is more than a simple, worthwhile investment. Yes, it can increase your investment and your revenue, but it will also change your way of life and directly benefit to the ocean environment. His Highness must somehow convince a skeptical and hesitating world that the best human adventure has already begun. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask you to warmly welcome His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco.
Thank you very much, Pierre, for that over-enthusiastic and over-exuberant presentation. Mr. Minister, Secretary to the Sea of Portugal, Your Excellencies, Mr. Mayor of Cascais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'd like to say, of course, how thrilled I am to be back here in Portugal, to be back here in Cascais. And let me express my warmest thanks to, of course, I was able to say that to the President of your country last night, but for everyone who has taken part in the organization of Biomarine for this conference and convention, and for inviting me, of course, to be part of these proceedings. It's always a pleasure to be here in Portugal, of course, in this beautiful city of Cascais. As you know, it's said before, my family has a long history of friendship with Portugal, and so I'm very happy to rekindle this connection anytime I can. I've not forgotten that very close to Cascais, great explorers once set off around the globe, positioning Portugal as a great maritime nation. I'm thrilled to see that this country is once again preparing its future by looking toward the ocean. I'd also like, of course, to thank Pierre and Veronique Herves and their faithful partners, and they are also partners of my foundation, and our roads frequently cross over the same issues and the same hopes and dreams. I've been following with interest Biomarine's initiatives and achievements for many years. The success of this International Business Convention confirms the high quality of the work conducted by its directors and the high potential in the topics that unite us. A potential that I would like to address briefly for you today. It's not a question of flaunting the merits of technological and industrial prospects for which you have a better knowledge than myself. It is a question of making people understand that the Biomarine project is part of a pertinent commercial and entrepreneurial logic, and that can, above all, be met by political need. Leveraging on marine bioresources does not only mean an additional source of supply for a world with an increasing appetite. For me, it's far more about being able to respond to the challenges of the present through solutions for the future, to having the determination to find answers to the various problems we face. I'd like to characterize this challenge in 3 words: lucidity, responsibility, and inventiveness. These 3 words, I think, embody, and I think for all of us, profound needs. They find here in the topics that bring us together a unique opportunity to take concrete and positive shape. First of all, lucidity. The key strength of marine bioresources is not merely the many promises they hold. What makes their development and growth inevitable is first and foremost the lucid observation of the world as it is. We are in a world of scarcity, even shortage, as evidenced by the situation of key resources on which we depend. I'm thinking of energy, of course, although it is a primary prerequisite for improving people's lives and empowering individuals. We witness on a daily basis the limits of the current energy system that relies on resources that are too rare to fully satisfy humankind, which can be toxic to the environment and subject to depletion. I'm also thinking of food, which we all know is one of the main challenges today facing the balance of our world, and which will be even more of a challenge in the upcoming years and decades. With 9 billion humans soon on our planet, with food requirements and standards that fortunately are increasing, which practices that are becoming standardized, food issue has become one of the greatest challenges of this century. The current system leads to the destruction of 0.5% of our arable land per year, representing 30 million hectares. That's almost the size of Italy. At this rate, 50% of the Earth's land will have been exhausted in 100 years. Irrigation, which leaches the soil, pollution, which damages it, urbanization, these are all causes that point to a potential disaster. Marine resources are not in a better position, since their exploitation is still too highly dominated by overfishing and irresponsible aquaculture. In 2011, 400 international experts from more than 35 countries approached by the United Kingdom came to this alarming conclusion, which sadly went unnoticed. Without changing our ways, we have 20 years to produce 40% more food and 50% more energy. That's a very short period of time. These figures, ladies and gentlemen, should lead us to take stock of our situation. The impossible equation between supply bound to diminish and an ever-expanding demand. It would be unrealistic and futile, I think, to respond to the current crises by supporting negative growth, which few people wish for, and more importantly, which proves itself impossible. To ensure the survival of the billions of humans living on this planet, and more importantly, those who will live after us, we have no choice but to change our conduct and find new resources. Among them, marine bioresources are obviously there to play an important role, due not only to their various potential, but also to the magnitude of the volumes we can hope to benefit from these in the long term. However, it does not mean that they should not be exploited by perpetuating a contradictory system. After plundering the land and many maritime resources, especially fish resources, it would be absolutely suicidal not to now start depleting this new wealth as yet barely explored. And this brings me to the second principle that I proposed before, that is responsibility. It pushes us to develop, starting right now, a certain number of guarantees and long-term mechanisms that would only ensure the reasonable and sustainable use of these new resources. These guarantees must come primarily from international legal instruments which currently are insufficient, both in the face of the challenges of which we are already aware, climate change, damage to biodiversity, and in the face of new challenges which are of concern to us today. Treaties need to be implemented and their provisions enforced. The main one is, of course, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This treaty was and is a visionary legal instrument, but it needs adaptation. We would like to improve it so that it can take better account of key issues, not only for marine genetic resources, but to all threatened species in the area beyond national jurisdiction, i.e. the high seas. that are not covered by any other legal instruments. The political push should be, on the one hand, to make sure oceans and seas will have a dedicated sustainable development goal in the post-2015 development agenda, and on the other hand, that we start all these negotiations for an implementing agreement not restricted to marine genetic resources. It will be a missed opportunity to restrict these negotiations to marine genetic resources and not to address the urgent protection of all endangered species in the high seas. I would also like to point out that the governance of the ocean and its resources increases the complexity of the situation. The FAO is responsible for fisheries management, UNEP for the environment, the IMO for navigation, and UNESCO for scientific matters. As for the International Seabed Authority itself, it is only vested with power in regard to mineral resources, which means that no commission is competent as far as the exploitation of bioresources in international waters are concerned. The International Seabed Authority was established for a specific purpose, and its mandate could be reviewed to invest it with other responsibilities, but of course, this will have a cost. Excuse me. Is it me or is it warm in here? Significant efforts need to be made here, which unfortunately will not come about quickly. We see at every international summit how great the challenges are. Confronted with the divergent interests of various nations, and faced with what is considered more urgent crises, the international community struggles to reach an agreement with regard to sustainable development. That is why measures can and must also be taken at a local and even a national level. I'm thinking of the conservation of certain rare resources, or the particular attention we should pay to certain extremely fragile regions. In order to do this, we have the Marine Protected Areas System, the principle of which needs to be expanded and applied to all sea-related activities. In the absence of certainty, the exploitation of bioresources itself must, like all economic activities, respect certain sensitive areas whose future is vital to all humanity. That is why I care for, with my government and my foundation and within multilateral fora, about these marine protected areas which have experienced significant growth recently. However, with only 2.3% of the global ocean surface currently under the status of a protected area, there is still a long way to go. The targets that were established at the Nagoya Conference in 2010, may I remind you, provided for an increased figure of 10% of the ocean surface by 2020. This goal is, I think you will all agree, an extremely low figure for a successful maintenance of sustainable biodiversity. It is therefore crucial to sustain all efforts in this respect. More refined, inventive, and unprecedented measures need to be developed based on improved scientific knowledge and of the mechanisms at work and on the implementation of safer technical solutions. And this is the third principle that I mentioned, innovation. Such innovation is also the responsibility of political leaders who need to define new ways of protecting our seas. It is to this end that, together with the French and Monegasque governments, my foundation launched last year a Mediterranean Trust, the purpose of which is to fund the development of marine protected areas in the Mediterranean and to promote their operation as a network. This is one example among many, an example of the inventiveness that we all need to demonstrate in order to create blue growth. This inventiveness also involves a great amount of research, whose promotion is the responsibility of all of us, but especially of political leaders. By hosting various international scientific events and laboratories, by contributing to various research programs across the globe, in particular on maritime issues, my country is involved in this effort. However, choosing innovation means above all placing trust in companies, because the principle of innovation is at the heart of their approach. It guarantees their success and guides them on a day-to-day basis. I believe that companies need to be fully involved in our objectives, in the objective of a new growth, and this blue growth in which they should play the leading role and be the first beneficiaries. At a time when current crises fuel doubts on the social value and responsibility of the corporate sector, at a time when they are so often disparaged, an opportunity is being given to them to prove their value. It is in fact up to companies to explore and develop the vast field of marine bioresources in a responsible and sustainable manner, for the benefit of all. They alone have the ability to match the needs of the planet with the daily expectations of the consumer. They alone are able to spur men and women daily, those who have a thirst for progress, but who do not want to destroy the heritage of future generations. That is why I support Biomarine and this project, and the project it is implementing, the project in which you are all key players. For these reasons, and with my foundation, I have chosen to take part in the creation of the Bio-International Clusters Association. The growth I'm calling for is made of networks, cooperation, shared access to information for everyone in the interest of everyone. Biomarine is an amazing catalyst for these new energies, a catalyst that we need to nurture and to encourage by being responsible players ourselves in the development of our oceans. It is a necessity for all of us, for our children, and for the oceans themselves. So Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, aware of the situation of our planet, responsible, faced with prospects of new resources, inventive, confronted with the challenges posed by these resources, we will, I am sure, be able to address the challenges of this century. The road ahead, or should I say the waterway ahead, will of course be difficult. This is a road within our reach as long as we give ourselves the means to follow it, so that our fragile world of rare resources is able to continue to live in peace, to offer progress and hope to as many people as possible. We have to move forward. I think we have no other choice. And as Winston Churchill once very aptly said, he said many wonderful things, but he said this: we must take change by the hand, or rest assured, change will take us by the throat. Marine bioresources must help us take this change by the hand, and Biomarine can help us achieve it. That is the reason of our presence, I think, here today. Have a wonderful convention. Thank you very much.
I will invite, the first one to come. We'll have, an official photo. These usually